Good morning. This is Strategic Prepper. We are at Puskus Lake recreational area, and I am Gil, and
I'm Gil.
this is Gil. Greetings and salutations. So we are here, and the rest of our group is showing up in a little while, and we are going to take a look at 2020. This is our year in review. So let's begin. What we're going to look at in 2020 is starting with March of last year, and we're going to run through January. So about a 10-month look. And we're going to do basically an after-action report. Look at what things went well with us as far as our preps, what things we had to make adjustments on and improvements. So we're going to have a 2020 after-action review. This is very common in the risk management business, of which we are both part, where after an event or a series of events, you analyze what went well and what needs to improve. So let's start by reviewing the major events of 2020 that I'm sure everyone that's watching knows. So what are some of the big things that we had?
Kicked off with COVID. COVID's a big one.
Kicked off with COVID, right? We had a lot of civil unrest.
Yep.
What else?
Supply chain issues all year.
Oh my gosh, supply chains. People thought this would never happen. It happened.
Toilet paper.
Toilet
Couldn't
paper,
get toilet
meat.
paper for months. Meat.
Oh my gosh.
Lysol. You still can't get Lysol in a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, look at these pictures. We took some pictures last year, and you'll see those on the screen right now of empty shelves. It was crazy. And in January, the Texas freeze, where basically they lost water, they lost power. That was a minor SHTF for them. Me being in Louisiana and with a brother in Texas, I was pretty involved in dealing with that on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to talk about some takeaways as far as what went well. So, big thing, Gil. Big takeaway on a positive.
So, I'd say overall, number one, I got written in my notes, trust my intel. Early when we started hearing about COVID, I started looking out different medical sources, doctors and virologists, right? Trying to get information from the source, filtering it outside of news and just any organization that might have a bias or whatever. But yeah, I'd say trust my intel. January, February, March, when it started hitting, what I thought was going to happen in the first 3 to 4 months, and everyone involved were saying the same thing basically. This is what we think is going to happen the first 3 months or so. After that, we're not really sure. But yeah, our intel was good. What we thought was going to happen pretty much happened. And so that's one thing I learned. Hey, trust my ability to gather intelligence and stuff like that.
So if I remember correctly, it was January of 2020 where you brought this to my attention and gave me some good references. And by February, each of us within our own organizations were telling our companies that we work for,
Yep.
We need a plan. I know that at my company, yes, some people laugh, but I'll tell you what,
Me too.
those that made decisions, we had a certain process that needed certain equipment, and I could see there was going to be a shortage because the intelligence told us that this was going to be a problem. And we would have had to idle part of the process without the equipment. And we couldn't get everything that we wanted, but we got enough equipment, and actually we were ahead of the curve on this. So when the restrictions started coming down from the government, not only was I prepared, but my organization was prepared. And I think that you had a similar result with your company.
Yeah, I'd say at every turn, I was about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of everyone. But yeah, initially no one listened, and I was fortunate enough to be in a position where at my facility, I could make decisions and do things without approval from other people. So yeah, there was things that I had bought and stocked up on and developed plans before anyone else had. And yeah, when the rubber hit the road, and my facility is pretty integral to the whole platform. So really, yeah, because I'd gone out and done all that stuff, we were better prepared than most. But yeah, I'd say on average, with all the shortages and everything that developed step by step earlier last year, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks on average ahead of the curve. Yeah.
So intelligence means it's a lot of work. You always have to pay attention. You have to analyze, because there's always people raising the red flag, and some of them have no merit.
Yep, you got to filter that.
You got to filter that out, right?
Yep.
Another one that I've got, balanced preps. We have a system that we shared with you in the last couple of videos. Links are in the description. But by building a balanced system over the years, we call it concentric circles, preparing for 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, a year, by building broadly. When COVID hit, I had pandemic gear. How about you?
Yeah, I had gear, and one thing to note, we definitely, before things happened, we went out and bought more gear and whatnot. So one big thing to note too is, were there gaps? Yes, right. So there's things I had to buy that I didn't have, but it wasn't anything I was caught off guard, right? So as we're making these big plans, there were known deficiencies that were, you could call them planned deficiencies, right? So, for example, pandemic is usually pretty low percentage or low probability, right? So yeah, there was things I had, there's things I knew I needed more on, but for that time being, leading up to 2020, I was focused on other things. And yeah, January came around, we had a meeting or call basically and reprioritized, but oh yeah, by and large, I had everything I needed.
Yeah, so let me give you an example of those planned gaps. By building a balanced approach, by following a balanced approach, I had masks, I had N95 masks, I had gloves, I had I had Lysol stuff to sanitize. What I didn't have, because remember, in February, March, nobody knew how bad was going to be. I didn't have any full face respirators, and I didn't have Tyvek suits.
Yep.
But I did have plans for decontamination, because I've worked with hazardous environments for decades, so that's just something that was kind of natural for me. So I had that, but I added, as you said, once we realized this was going to be a thing, I went and added some of the Tyvek suits, full face respirator,
Yep.
and then more of the other equipment.
Yeah, more of the specialized equipment, yeah. Yeah.
So another plus, got to be willing to act.
Yeah. There's always a risk when you get, especially on something like a pandemic, right? We see movies. In fact, man, there was a movie that got popular again last year, Contagion, right? I think was a
Good movie.
Yeah, actually, they got a lot of stuff right. But yeah, especially in something like a pandemic, it's a movie type scenario, so people are real hesitant to put any real action, once they get information. And so you gotta, again, you trust your process, trust your intel, and yeah, there comes a decision point. Like for us, I started doing calculate how much food do I have, how much do I want to have, and right, just kind of verifying everything I've got. And yeah, there was a point I had to make a decision. Okay, I'm going to spend X amount of money buying X amount of gear because I think there's a reasonable chance that we're going to have this outcome. So you don't want to be foolish, right? For example, in that situation, don't empty out your savings account and leave yourself broke, because now you're open to more probable scenarios, right? So.
And you mentioned the last item that we have on our list, and that's trust the process. Yep. Quite a few years ago, we sat down and we decided we're going to start prepping. First thing we did was a risk analysis that you can see in our video with the link in the description. And then we built that out and followed that out with an approach, building first for 3 days, 3 weeks, a month, as we said. And we've got videos on that. So we just stuck with the process over the years, and when something unexpected like COVID showed up, we had good systems in place. And so, as you mentioned, we had to add a little bit.
Yeah.
But if we didn't, we were okay too. All right, so as an example, when COVID started hitting, the shelves started getting bare, and my wife and I went into the store and couldn't find a lot of the things that we wanted. Did we panic? No, because we had already prepared. So if we needed to buy, or if we were going to buy toilet paper, so the thing we started to say to each other is, we'll buy it if it's there.
Yep.
But if it's not there, we're okay. We've got supply at home. Meat, the freezer's already full. We have canned meat if we need to. So because we had been following the process, when the shelves were bare, we weren't in a pinch. We were in good shape.
Yeah, my wife and I had similar conversations, especially as the shortages, as they hit, because just because I have stuff doesn't mean I'm going to stop going to the grocery store. Right? I'm going to top myself off every week. But we had the conversation, hey, if we're going to a grocery store and there's no food, or people are starting to fight over food, which, if you guys remember, that was a real, people were fighting over toilet paper. But I said, hey, if it turns into that, just leave.
Exactly.
We want to top off if we can. If we can't, no big deal. Don't worry about it. Right. So, yeah.
All right. So a lot of things went well. I felt personally that our preps, our gear, our skills, our training, our knowledge were sufficient for COVID. That was my big takeaway for both of us. That when COVID hit, one of the things I saw, and this is going to the negatives or the opportunities for improvement, not so much for us, but for other people that prep, there was a lot of panic. We didn't panic.
Yeah.
Because our system worked.
Yep.
So when we got blindsided, on January 1st, maybe there's a couple, but we weren't watching COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But by January 31st,
oh yeah,
we were on it, but we were already our preps had already put us in a good position, which is what prepping is about getting ready for that unknown, so that when it happens, you're ready.
Yep.
You're prepared, and we were very successful in that. So, opportunities for improvement. People panic.
Yeah, people are gonna freak out, and like going back to COVID, people freak out and they're not gonna do basic research. Which we knew that going into it, right? But it's different when you see it firsthand. But the good information was so readily available. You had, there's one of the major universities, but you had these medical universities, you had leading doctors putting out really solid information. People didn't seek it out. They freaked out. They ran with what they saw on Facebook, and they took it and ran with it. And yeah, that's number one thing, is people are gonna freak out when stuff happens.
Well, at the risk of getting this YouTube shut off, I'm going to say this also. One thing that I learned is that the so-called government experts, you just can't rely on them. You got to do your own research, get your own sources. They've said things over the course that are absolutely contradictory to things they've said before. We've been consistent. So we'll have to do a video at some point directly about masks and all that. But people panic, even preppers. I was surprised at long-term preppers that have a presence on the internet that were unprepared.
Oh yeah.
You were talking about somebody.
I understand if you're new or you're still learning.
Sure.
I get that. So I'm not. If you're one of those, I'm not talking about you. But if you're pretty established and you've been doing this for a while, so there's a few things, right? So some of these different Facebook groups I'm in, I saw people saying, one particular guy saying that he wasn't, he's been prepping for a decade or whatever. He wasn't ready to bug in. And that's like one-on-one level stuff, right? If you can stay in your house, you're already there. It's kind of the easiest method of prepping. He wasn't ready for that.
So just a little thought on that. And that's why we talk all the time about a balanced approach. This was a gentleman who was so focused on a particular scenario.
Yep, I'm preparing for this one scenario.
I'm going to bug out. It's like that TV show. What was that?
Doomsday Preppers?
Doomsday Preppers.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I'm
like
preparing for this.
Yeah, I'm going to hide in my treehouse or whatever.
Yeah.
And people focus on a single scenario. They're the people that seem to get blindsided.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about, and we're always going to talk about, a balanced approach, a systematic approach, so that we're prepared in general for those things.
In reality, if you prep for generalities, most of your preps are going to overlap. So if you do it well, you'll be prepared for like 90% of the situations. Right. There'll be some specialized things that but and then even since then, there's been different, just other stuff coming out. Hey, top 10 things I didn't have and whatnot. And
it was surprising to me.
Yeah, stuff that I've seen a lot of these videos and overall I'm watching like, no, I had that, and I was ready for that, and Yeah, because people just get too much tunnel vision, I think.
And the problem is, it almost sounds arrogant, to sit here and say, well, I was ready. But the fact of the matter is, I was ready, and you were ready.
And the thing that helps us is, professionally, this is what we do as a profession, right? So, like risk management and whatnot. Yeah, there's a process that you follow to because you get in certain industries where, man, if you fail to do this correctly, people are going to die, right? So that's most people don't do that. So that we have that on our side, and
Right.
I think that's what's given us that ability.
Right. Last thing on the negative takeaways or areas for improvement, the civil unrest. Now, I've got my body armor with the full loadout, and I've got all that stuff. But one thing that I saw was these protesters talking about going into basic
Suburbs. Yep.
Talking about going into the suburbs, and they would just show up without any warning. And sure, I guess I could go grab my body armor and stand out there, but I wanted something a little lighter that I could just easily grab, get on the front porch. You've got that, to have a presence. So I put together a Minuteman bag, and we're going to talk about, you've got, you call yours an assault bag.
Yeah.
I call mine a Minuteman bag, and we're going to do a video on that. But I've got some basic things geared towards allowing me to stay on the front porch, in the neighborhood for a short amount of time. It's just like the Minuteman, where they would always be ready to reply in a minute. I have laser glasses because these protesters like to use lasers. I got a bottle of water. I've got some caffeine beans. I've got a couple extra magazines.
Yep, I got rain gear in mine. Heck, one thing I added, so talk about opportunity for improvement or something I learned. I did not have this before all this started. This is gonna sound silly, but it's a tactical fire extinguisher, right? So Blaze Defense makes a product. Yeah, because these guys were using pyrotechnics.
We got a link. We're gonna put a link here.
Yeah, they use pyrotechnics and Molotov cocktails. Like, yeah, you know what? If I get caught on fire, probably a good idea. And I already had it in the house because I already had fire extinguishers in the house. So if they set the house on fire, I can deal with that. But yeah, for personnel, I didn't have that prior. Now I have it in my kit.
All right. So what else you got?
I guess one of the effects is, this is overall, I'm actually going back to the positives. Gardening, that was always, obviously it's always part of the plan. The last few years, there have been other things I've been focusing on. But last year, February, I said, all right, I'm going to do this right now. So, I did research, and it probably, a month and a half worth of research, what to grow and all. But yeah, I started a raised bed garden. I planted a peach tree. Now I'm in my second growing season, so I planted more stuff. So that was one positive thing, is that moved food production, skyrocketed to near the top of the list, which it wouldn't have happened as quickly if it weren't for COVID. And so now that has changed my trajectory a little bit. Again, like we talked about prior, it wasn't an unknown gap, right? Like, I knew that I wasn't doing it, and I knew that I needed to be doing it, but there's other things that I prioritize higher than that. And so that's one thing to note too. This is going to change as things happen. Your list is going to change. Your priority is going to change. That's normal. It's meant to be like that.
So, big takeaways on 2020. Follow the plan. Have a plan. Use a good systematic approach. Stick with the plan. And there will be more bad things in life, because that's life.
Yep.
And we want you to be prepared. So if you like this video, give a thumbs up. Subscribe. Please share this, and leave comments in the comment section. All right, stay safe. Before you go, I'd like to leave you with a special offer. As you can see, our risk assessment process is a very important tool for us to be prepared for various types of emergencies. I would like to send you our unique step-by-step risk assessment process for preppers. It's a PDF file. If you give me your email in the comment section below, I'd be happy to send that to you for free. Thanks for watching.